Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, joining me are my 3 book bloggers, 1 series read-along co-host, Casey and Nicola. We are discussing the second book in our fall trilogy read-along, which is White Hot by Ilona Andrews. It is the second book in the Hidden Legacy series. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction podcast. Join in this book discussion by finding me on Twitter as well as my co-host. Tweet at us using our special hashtag 3bloggers1series. That's using the numeric 3 and 1. Again, that's hashtag 3bloggers1series. If Twitter isn't your thing, no worries. You can join the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official and talk about the series with us there as well as other bookish topics. I hope to hear your thoughts on this book discussion. The links for everything I've mentioned are below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with one book nerd friend or on your favorite social media space. That would really help me out, and I appreciate you. Before we get started, I have to issue a spoiler warning. This is a roundtable book discussion, so nothing is off limits. You've been warned. We've got a fun hour ahead of us, so let's get started. Welcome back, guys. Today we are covering book 2 in the series, White Hot. As always, joining me are the 3 book bloggers, 1 series co-host, Casey and Nicola. Welcome, ladies.
Hey.
Hello.
Yes, it's so fun to be back again. But before we dive into the book, I want to be sure to welcome everyone listening across the various platforms, as well as the buddies that are listening to this right now inside the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group. So if you want in on this live discussion, you need to find us on Facebook. So go ahead and do that right now. We do have a lot to cover today, so we're going to jump on in and get started. Nicola, would you mind running down the book and audiobook stats?
Sure. So this is, as Tamara said, the second book in the Hidden Legacy trilogy by Ilona Andrews. The ebook is 421 pages. It's published by Avon. It came out May 30th, 2017. There was a bit of a gap between the first and the second book. Avon is a subsidiary of HarperCollins, and they always put out good stuff. So on the audiobook, if you prefer that, it runs about 13 hours and 18 minutes. It's narrated by Renee Raudman. And again, it's rated 5 stars on Audible, so you're in for a treat.
Indeed. Okay, so for those that haven't read the book yet, or if you finished a long, long time ago, we need a synopsis. Casey, help us out with that.
All right. Nevada Baylor has a unique and secret skill. She knows when people are lying, and she's used to that magic, along with plain hard work, to keep her colorful and close-knit family's detective agency afloat. But her new case pits her against the shadowy forces that almost destroyed the city of Houston once before, bringing Nevada back into contact with Connor "Mad" Rogan. Rogan is a billionaire prime and the highest rank of magic user, and as unreadable as ever, despite Nevada's talent. But there's no hiding the sparks between them. Now that the stakes are even higher, both professionally and personally, and their foes are unimaginably powerful, Rogan and Nevada will find that nothing burns like ice.
Ooh. Okay.
Here we go.
So, here we go. Okay, so what'd you guys think about the start of the book? We jump right back in, kind of fast paced. Did you love it?
I did. I thought it was really interesting that all of book 1, Nevada was like, I have to hide. I can't let anybody know what I'm doing. And we start off the prologue with her interrogating a criminal in the police department, trying to find a little girl. And she's like, nope, I don't care. I'm doing this. I'm showing who I am and what I can do. And Augustine is there trying to talk her out of it. And she's like, nope, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm doing what's right because that's what I need to do.
And she has this getup of a costume.
Yeah,
on.
Lady in Green.
Yes.
A very pathetic costume too. Like,
well, and then Augustine kind of disguised her too with his illusionist powers. So I can't remember. Did he go into the police station with her?
I think he was in the station with her, but not in the room when she was doing the interrogation.
I'm trying to remember why Victoria Tremaine knew to go to Augustine to try to find out who the identity of her.
Because he was with her there at the police station.
He must have been. Yeah.
And his name was related to it. And then,
Got it.
Yeah, and being that, she knows what her powers are, it didn't take too much to put two and two together, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, that was actually, I like that scene a lot. She's constantly thinking of her own self-preservation, but not in the case of a missing child. She's like, I don't care. We've got to do this. I've got to do this. And she cut right to the chase and got the job done.
Yeah.
It was like amazing.
Well, I like the rules for their agency, right? They stay bought.
Yeah.
And they stay on the right side of the law whenever possible. But the third one is always like, I have to be able to sleep at night. So there's a moral compass in this family that's very explicitly stated, like frequently. So I like that. And it explains a lot of the choices she makes, I think.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I love about Ilona Andrews, and I was thinking back to some of the Edge Chronicles on this too, is that it's really, there's stories about women coming into their power, and I really like that. And it's Nevada acknowledging what she can do and then starting to use it. And then, in the last book, I think, you could say that she's, choosing how to wield it. She's I don't know. I'm trying to trying to think in the bigger picture terms, but I just love that about these books. Is that it's frequently about women who think they're ordinary, find out that they're not, kind of go through that process of figuring out what they can do and whether they want to do it and how they're going to do it, and then really embracing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Nevada, she's very, I guess, moral, but not to the point where it's ridiculous. Come on, she's still, even in this book, she starts to show that she'll do what needs to be done, but she wants to, like you said, sleep at night, right? So she does follow that rule that the family set, but she's not so holier than thou, and it's not gross. You know what I mean? Where it's nauseating.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
absolutely. And it includes, breaking somebody's neck if it's them or her,
trying to kill you. Yeah.
So I think it's a very, I think you can see the military background that Gordon Andrews brings to it, where, you have that enemy, ally, or civilian outlook. And if it's an enemy, then there's no quarter,
Yeah, kill the enemy, protect yourself, protect your people. That's it. And we can talk about this a little more later when it comes to Rogan, but she kind of discovers that about him. That's how he thinks about things. So it kind of changes, I think, her perspective on him a little bit.
It does. I liked how explicit the way she's learning more about him is written in these books. We don't see much from Rogan's point of view. And that's kind of unusual in modern urban fantasy. A lot of times there's a back and forth with point of view and whatnot, but he's kind of as mysterious to the reader as he is to Nevada, and I like that they explicitly explore how she sees his personality and his inner self being revealed.
And she still fights him for her boundaries and her independence. And I love that he understands that no means no. So
he finally got it. He got it.
Yes. He understands that no means no. And in my mind, that makes him the best hero ever.
Unless she's in danger, right? He knew
Yeah.
Unless she's in danger.
And I really
yes.
liked that final conversation they had about him buying her mortgage and stuff when he's like, you were vulnerable. I protected you and I would do it again.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
yes, and I respect that about him. I do. It's like he did cross the boundary, but he wasn't being malicious. He really helped her out, and I think eventually she came to understand that.
It was really highlighted in the epilogue when they found out that fake company that tried to buy the mortgage was from her paternal grandmother. So she knew for a while, for days before she showed up in Houston, who Nevada was and how they were related. But because Rogan had already, bought the mortgage, she was protected.
Yep.
Yeah, she kind of knew though, like even when we're kind of jumping ahead, but when Augustine approached her, like, hey, I got this awesome deal for your services. Let's work together. And she's like, wait a minute. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Like he's doing the same thing, just kind of sleazier, like underhandedly.
Well, it's not really the same thing either because Rogan did it without any quid pro quo, right? He just protected her without locking her into any kind of contract or obligations on her part. That is not what Augustine was offering.
Augustine was trying to slide some slick stuff in there, like, oh, well, I guess Rogan wouldn't want you to make you want to sleep with him.
Oh, yeah.
He was trying to be slick.
Yeah.
He was really trying it. But she knew better. She's like, no.
Augustine is such an interesting character. He's so I don't know, bad in the first book. Like you hate him so much because he's putting her in this position that she can't win, but then when Rogan calls him pancakes, he gets a little bit more humanized. And he starts to kind of, I don't know, see her less as a pawn and more as a human, but not entirely, right? He still has these manipulative plans that he can't quite stop himself from doing.
Such is the life of a prime. It's just what they do. It's like they can't help themselves. But one thing that did surprise me about Augustine is like when Rogan was expressing that that's like his best friend. I'm like, when did that happen? Like, I mean, I knew he knew him,
After the pancakes.
Well, I knew they were in the same. Okay, because I'm like, well, when did that happen exactly? I'm like, okay, I'll just take you at your word. That's your best friend. But I don't think I remember a point in time where I'm like, oh, they really do care about each other.
And I don't think they do care. It was that bonding with the pancakes and they're prime, so they have so few friendships that pancake just bonded them. And now that they're talking again, they're calling each other best friends.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like a normal friendship the way we would have a friendship. I don't
think they were best friends before the first book. I think they were acquaintances, mutual primes. Like they'd gone through school together. They would nod to each other at a party or whatever. But Rogan had no friends, right? And I think that they
went through the same thing, and Rogan made the pancakes for him
in school.
He mentioned it in this book. He said, in school, he's like, who do you think made the pancakes for him? So they had that bonding time. They definitely had time together as teenagers or young adults.
I guess.
But then they went off on their own way and didn't talk again until the last book. But now they're best friends because that's the only kind of friendship they know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like that was thrown in there, like for the sake of the story, to explain why. I'm going to threaten your ass and tell you you're going to do this, or I hate to kill you, friend. But, so I think they kind of did that just to amplify the choice that Rogan was making. But I don't think they fleshed that out enough for my liking, for me to believe they were actually best friends.
Yeah, I think the best friend, it's more like only friend. Right. and they became friends in the first book.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were acquaintances before, but I feel like the bond got, I don't know, reopened or reestablished in the first book. Because before then, I don't think they would have, they're kind of snappy with each other, they're not, anyway. But dudes can be that way, I suppose.
Plus, we don't know what happened over the last 2 months when Nevada wasn't talking to Rogan. They could have been interacting for the last
hanging out,
2 months.
drinking beers,
yeah,
watching the game.
Yeah,
that's exactly what they were doing.
Igniting a bromance,
Well, Augustine is very, very pretty, so.
Yeah, he is.
And he could be prettier.
He could be perfect.
And I guess I would believe he was doing that because, he was waiting on Nevada, of which she made it very clear she was annoyed that he just let it lie for months.
Yeah, that bugged me a little bit too. She's like, I told you no, but I wanted you to come after me. Like, that's kind of uncool. But
that was... She said no. He respected that no. That made me.
And then she was peeved about it.
I was like, girl, no, stop it.
So, you want him to respect your boundaries, listen to what you're saying, but then when he does, you rake him over the coals for it.
In fairness, she said no to, going straight to sex and skipping all of the seduction games and quote, all the bullshit, right? And there was a great scene in there where they were talking about it, and he said, "Well, I want your bullshit," and she said, "Well, you can't have it." And he said, "Why not?" He says, "Because you called it bullshit. That's why."
Yeah. He's like, "But I want your bullshit." Oh, that was awesome. But that just shows you how differently they both think about the same thing, because he was like, she's like, "I wanted us to date." And he's like, "Well, what do you think I was talking about?" Basically, he's like, "I didn't want to just sleep with you." But his approach was not what she wanted. So she interpreted that completely different than what he intended. So.
And I think 2 months ago, he would have just done that. He would have just fucked her and then eventually probably walked away because he hadn't changed as much at that point. He was still mad Rogan. He was still alone. He was still very much the loner. And nobody had ever told him no before. So even though she told him no, and he respected that, he was still intrigued enough to, buy all the property around her, buy her mortgage, protect her. And I think that forced him to grow as a person a bit more.
So in his case, it was kind of like absence makes the heart grow fonder kind of thing.
That's the way I
agree. And I think he had to think a little bit about what it was he wanted out of the relationship, right? And the fact that did he know she was a prime at that point? I think he did.
I think he had guessed.
Yes, because remember, he sent her these books. And it was so funny because the whole time she's not wanting to acknowledge who could have sent her the books. And everyone else is like, well, duh, Rogan sent you the book.
Yeah.
And she's like,
I think she knew. She just didn't want to acknowledge it.
You're so deaf right now. You're so deaf.
But when she shocked him in the first book, the power that she had was he wouldn't have been able to feel it if she hadn't been pretty powerful, right? So I think that was the tell. I think that was the giveaway.
Yeah.
He was so turned on by the fact that she could control him. I'm calling it. He's like, oh, she
hated
forced
it,
me
but
to.
Also,
he loved it. He did.
I think that he's very intrigued by where she is, that she is a prime. She has all these vulnerabilities. She has this family. She doesn't have a house. She doesn't want to negotiate the bullshit of the life of a prime. She doesn't have that ruthlessness yet, at least in the first book.
Definitely.
And I think that that's very intriguing to him.
Yes, but it's growing.
Plus, she's just pretty awesome.
Yeah, she is. I still love her
Me too.
as much as I did in book one, if not more. I really love her character.
She's so strong and kick-ass, and she's not going to let anybody walk all over her. She's very independent and I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to do what needs to be done, and it's awesome.
The other thing I really loved about this book was all the seeds that got planted about the rest of her family. And we find out a little bit more about what makes Byrne tick, and Leon's skill with predicting
with his magic.
Yeah, which is still kind of hard to explain, but like he
like predicting death. That's like, yeah, it's strange.
I don't know if it's predicting death or if it's like instinctively seeing where the shots are coming from. I couldn't tell exactly what.
It's kind of like predicting where the weakest link is and where the person most likely going to die.
Yeah.
But he's
always right. And like that ricochet shot was the clincher, right? Where there was nobody that actually shot at that person, but they took a ricochet, and he still knew that. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and read that section again to see what they called it. But yeah, that's really cool. You know,
it is, and I felt so bad for him because he was feeling so bad. Like, everyone keeps saying that my powers, they'll come, they'll manifest. When I can't do anything. He felt so bad. Like, and here they
we
are.
know nothing about his parents.
We do a little. He's Burns'
so
little brother, right? It comes up. I don't think it has come up in these two books, but it does come up a little bit in the third book. So the readers don't know, but the family does, right?
Yeah, we know the mom abandoned them. I don't know if they've mentioned the dad yet, or if they have different dads. But that's something to watch out for in the future books.
But I think he's got a really interesting talent. I'd love to see Byrne fall in love. You know. There was a scene that killed me. This is my third read of the book, and I totally, I don't know, it didn't, either I glossed over it because it was during an action part and I was reading fast, or it just didn't tickle me the way it did this time. But when they're all in the assault vehicle and they're headed for the fortress to flush out Olivia, and Nevada's talking about how uncomfortable the armor is. She's like, I can't believe Mom and Grandma both wore this for, all the time. And in the meantime, Arabelle, the youngest sister, makes a duck face and takes a selfie of herself in the armor. And it was just such a funny contrast between the two of them. It cracked me up.
Wow, yeah.
Teenagers.
I know.
Yeah. They are awesome. I love them. Like the pranks they play on each other. And I mean, like, even when, Cornelius, who is I guess the person that activates this whole situation that we're dealing with in this book, he comes to talk to Nevada, and she's like, oh my gosh, there's like bride books everywhere. Like, oh my gosh, like, what is
N plus R?
And he instantly put it together because there was an R on the paper, and as soon as Rogan shows up, he's like, is this R?
She's like, no, stop. There is no R.
No.
I like Cornelius.
They're like rooting for them the whole time. The whole family is. They're like, come on. Come on. Just do this. Yeah.
Too funny. And she got so mad at, I think it was the Grandma Frida that said, we need the money. And that really that was not teasing to her. And she went off. And Grandma's like, sorry, it was just a joke. She's like, I am providing for this family. We do not need his money.
Yeah. She's like, it was a joke, but not really. I mean, because even later, I think it was Arabella. She was like, I need money for college. It was in one scene. And she's like, she just yells out, like, Lord, they want the money. Marry that rich guy. I don't care what he's like. Just marry him. We need the money.
Anyway, I love the family.
And they did a lot this installment as well. They all work together so well. They have their routines down. Like, even when, for example, they had to kind of look out for Cornelius and his daughter, Nevada was issuing orders like, hey, you watch this kid, you do this, you do that. They're just like robots. They know exactly what to do, what their role is. It's awesome to see.
Family
or to read rather.
Bickering and stuff just dissolves when there's a mission.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like any good family, you can fight with each other, but as soon as somebody else comes in to fight you, you team up.
Yep.
And you battle the outside threat first.
Yep. And Cornelius and Matilda became part of the family. Yeah. I liked that.
They did. I thought Matilda was so cute. She was adorable.
Yes, she was.
With her little cats. And she walks up to Rogan and she's like, can you hold him? I need to clean the eyes. And he's like, what is happening? Like, why did he out of all people, like I don't understand.
I like that there were stay-at-home fathers in this book. Cornelius, I think there was the gay couple that had a stay-at-home dad, and she really the team really goes out of their way to make sure that there's representation, even if they're not main characters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even non-white characters, like a couple of the people on Rogan's team, they pointed out, like with a description of them being brown-skinned or African American or whatever.
And Lenora, the DA, is black, and the gentleman in the assembly, is that what it's called? Where all the primes get together and do prime things.
Yeah.
He comes into play more in the next book, I think. But he's also black, and he's like one of the most powerful guys in the in the assembly, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. I didn't notice it as much in the first book. Even like Lenora, it didn't like dawn on me that she was black right away, but definitely in this book, I could see all the different, types of people, which was really cool.
I just want to add very quickly from a writing, editing standpoint, a lot of people or a lot of writers have questions about, well, how do I describe characters without sounding racist? How do I describe Asians without saying they have almond eyes? Because that's very racist and you don't ever want to do that. But Ilona Andrews just does it where she's like, oh, her eyes point to an Asian ancestry. Or here's an African American man walking through the halls. Or here's this person who has some kind of Hispanic African ancestry. And she just labels it as the ancestry. She doesn't try to dance around with the weird skin tones or the skin colors or, try to dress it up or anything. She's just straight up, here's a black man, here's an Asian woman, here you go. And it's so refreshing. And like every author or writer out there listening, this is how you write characters of color without being racist.
I noticed, I think it was in this.
Sorry, I'll get off my
No, I think it was in this series too that I noticed that they described someone as a white woman, right? Like that's not the default. So think about that. That they just said, she's a white woman with this color hair and blah blah blah, and it was like.
And I love that. Like, why? Like, it's even Steven everywhere. Yes. You're just saying what it is.
And if you think about, if you were saying do a police report or something, that's how you would say it, right? You wouldn't say, oh, she had cafe au lait skin and she had, almond eyes.
Cafe au lait?
Well, that's a thing, right? That
it's a thing. We need to make that not a thing.
Food-related analogies are, and it's become really offensive to the community, from what I understand. So just that sort of very matter of fact, just the facts, ma'am, is really wonderful. And she's got a huge number of secondary characters when you think about it. Like there's all of these houses and civilians and witnesses and people that they're interviewing. They've got a ton of secondary or even tertiary, characters who probably aren't going to matter in the next book. But there's just a big population of people they talk to in these books.
And they're all different. They're different races, ethnicities, sexualities. There was that gay couple. There was, the one couple who they just cheated on each other the entire time because it wasn't a love match.
Yeah.
And you just see
they were cool with it, by the way.
Yeah, they're so cool with it.
The husband was kind of gross, but I mean, not only was he cool with it, he was like, oh, this gets me more power because she's banging somebody important. Yeah, it's like, that's kind of gross. But,
power by association.
But, it's a way of illustrating the gamut of how the houses work. The houses are different from you and me. Quote.
Yeah, and they make that clear, like, time and time again throughout this, like, as she's learning about how, primes work and things like that, they make it clear. Primes, this is a different world. This is how we do things, okay?
Yep.
This is it. It's a new world for her. Yes, it is.
But she's slowly getting into it and slowly learning. And there was that point where Rogan was like, "You're becoming a prime.
Oh, he
Like, you're
said you're
becoming
thinking like a
ruthless.
prime.
Or you're
Yeah,
thinking like a
Yep.
prime.
yes.
You're becoming that ruthless." And she almost had this like, "Oh God, I don't want this moment." But then she's like, "Nope, I'm doing it. I have to do it. I have to protect my family. I have to do what needs to get done."
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah.
I think she was doing that when she was thinking about how to kind of stave off her grandmother. She was thinking about what could we do instead of killing Augustus? This is what we need to do. And he's like, "Oh, I guess I hadn't thought of that. But hey, you're thinking just like me now." Yes.
Well,
Yep.
just like him, only with less instant murder.
Bloodshed.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'll just take out Augustine and then you'll
Instant
be safe.
kill.
Well, wait a minute. Do we have any other options?
But they said, well, in the book, they kind of said, well, that it will become normal to you. Like at first you might think like this, but I don't know, a couple years from now, you may not, you might want to instantly, because I mean, even when she approached Augustus, she's like, well, why didn't you just kill me? You could just kill me, kind of thing. And then she's like, oh, well, I need allies.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to be weak and say, I don't
but
like
who
killing
knows?
people.
Right.
It was also mentioned right before that he had 2 younger siblings that he was taking care of. And though she never had the conscious thought, I think in her mind, she's like, oh, I can't kill him because he's taking care of his siblings. And that's, what she's doing. She's taking care of her siblings. So she saw herself in him in that.
Yeah, and he's not a
second. Even though it was never consciously
But he's not
said.
a threat to her, right? He's kind of adversarial sometimes, but
No.
he's a vulnerability, but that's different from being an overt threat. And I think that she is probably never going to go first to take out that vulnerability by eliminating it, right? Well, by killing a human. She's going to think in terms of humanity and not in terms of threats and vulnerabilities, I think. I was starting to say that I really, really wish that the cover had shown her in that dress.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know. The dress that was so stunning. Oh, I wish, that would have been really nice.
With all the bruises on her neck, too.
You look like a prime.
Yeah.
That was interesting that they kept coming back to the bruise as being a thing that would catch people's attention. Like, that was a little weird to me.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I
it
mean-
did, though. One of the characters commented on it, like, ugh, like, he didn't
Couldn't you
even
take care
cover
of
up
that?
her. Yeah, like, what's going on?
But then somebody else came over and was all like, if you're being abused, let me help
which
you.
is amazing.
And I thought that was really nice. Yeah.
It's like, if you need out, I can help you. And she's like, what? Okay, never. Okay,
I love
thanks.
how she handled that. On behalf of every woman in this room, thank you very much. I am not, this is not what's happening, but thank you. I mean, don't you wish there were more likely to be people who would do that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that character comes back into play in the 3rd book, if I'm not mistaken, when they go to declare their house. I've already mentioned this to you guys outside of the conference, but I had such a hard time not going straight into the 3rd book when I finished this one. Gosh, I loved that 3rd book. So this was a great book too.
I mean, we get to see all the secrets are revealed about like Nevada's siblings.
This is a
and
great
stuff.
book. Don't
Like,
get me wrong, but it's just building up to that, to the 3rd book where so much cool stuff happens. So I'm gonna wait till we're ready to review it again. But boy, I really wanted to go straight into it last night.
Yeah, I was really just happy that I didn't remember exactly when they kind of revealed the whole, we're gonna try to apply to be, a house or whatever, but I'm glad it came out in this book because I couldn't remember exactly when I was reading the 1st book, but I'm like, oh yes, we're here. We are here. Stuff is about to really
that was
go
Rogan's
down.
advice when they discovered that Victoria Tremaine was going to be an adversary.
Her grandmother, and that witch is evil, man. That witch is crazy.
Yes. She really
She's
is
awful.
kind of unredeemable.
She's really bad. And I think Nevada did an excellent job kind of trying to anticipate what her grandmother would do as a truth seeker when it comes to Augustus. So she's like, look, this will work. Trust me. and she's crossing her fingers behind her back, but she thinks it will work.
This is your lesser of two evils.
Yeah, like what do you want, A or B? She's going to split your brain open and it will be the worst thing ever and you'll be left with nothing, or we can try this, basically.
And it's not just to protect Nevada, it's to protect Augustine too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that scene where Penelope, when she told her mother what was happening, and her mother's like, I'm just going to go kill Augustine right now. You stay here. I'll be right back.
She actually reacted in the same way that Rogan did, basically. Rogan was like, oh, we got to kill him. And her mother's like, oh, I'm going to go kill him right now. If you won't, I'll do it. I'll just go kill him. It's done.
Well, but Rogan was thinking analytically and strategically.
Yeah.
Penelope was terrified.
She was. But she knew that if she got to him, it's over. It's done. You know, she'll know.
Yeah.
But wasn't it over before then? I need to go back and track the timeline, but didn't the shell company try to buy the mortgage before Victoria contacted Augustine, or however you say his name?
I don't think so. I think it was right around the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, they've found them.
But that being said, like, it happened before she walked into his office. So she already knew.
Maybe.
Right?
Well, maybe it's that she doesn't have proof. I mean, she knows that she could have tracked Penelope and Frida, right? And found them and known that some of those kids were probably her grandchildren, right? So that she probably knows that there's a chance there of what's going on, but she doesn't know for sure like she would have if she'd been able to read Augustine.
Like that would solidify everything she needed to know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. She doesn't seem like the type that would stop and wait for like legal proof, but
no.
Anyway, it has increased the tension for sure. Yeah,
there's definitely a sense of urgency. Like now that she's kind of got us in her sights, we've got to act like right now. Yeah.
Yep.
Which makes it fun and exciting to read because you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What is she going to do? You know, which is good. I think that amped it up a little bit.
And for our lucky listeners, you guys don't have to wait. You can go right into that third book. When these first came out, there was a pretty big gap between books. So it was like pins and needles for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but you guys who are listening, you're lucky. You can go right into it.
Well, when I came across this, I did not read them with their releases because I was not an Ilona Andrews reader before this series. So I kind of found it when the second book was out. So I kind of went from first to second real fast. I think I had to wait for the third, but
that sounds right.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember reading the first one when it first came out. And then, it was like 2 or 3 years before book 2 came out. And I was one of those people who was just so upset.
There was, I don't remember what happened. There was some kind of publishing snafu with the second book. I don't know if the authors didn't get it finished in time or if the publication, that was when they switched over to Avon. So they had been publishing, I'm not sure what Kate Daniels has published through, but it was...
Book 1 was with Avon, though.
Yeah, book 1 in this trilogy was, but it was their first book with Avon. They had been, I believe Kate Daniels is through a different publisher. I don't know if it's Berkeley or Ace, right?
Okay.
I don't know if there was some kind of contractual snafu there or not, but I don't know, Casey, I know you were there. Tamara, did you go to RT, was it 14 in New Orleans?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. They gave out the ARCs for White Hot at that conference, and that's where I got mine. I don't know, Casey, you probably did too, because I know you were there.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
So we had it early, and then it was just a real long wait for the second one. So I had to, of course, reread the first one. So, but I'm an Ilona Andrews fan. I read the first Kate Daniels and was kind of not very impressed.
Same, but guess what? I stopped there.
And I put it aside, and a lot of people were telling me, "Oh no, it's great, it's great, it's great." I'm like, I wasn't impressed. And Then I picked up, for whatever reason, the first book in the Edge Chronicles, and I really liked that. It's such a funky blend of fairy tale and fantasy and urban fantasy. It was just, the humor really grabbed me, and the magic really grabbed me, and the characters, like the hero was such an asshole, and yet, he kind of came around. And that really grabbed me. So that gave me the, I don't know, motivation to go ahead and go a little further with Kate Daniels. And I had a lot of people say, yeah, I agree, the first one wasn't so bad, but they get a lot better.
So is the Kate Daniels, I know this is off topic, so I'll make it real quick. Is that series still running, like, live with more books, or is it done?
No.
Kate Daniels is done. There may be spin-offs, but Kate is done for now.
They just finished it last year, I think, or this year?
Last year.
I think there's 13 books altogether.
Because I feel like after I've heard so many people, especially in the last episode, Nicola, you referenced, and I think you too, Casey, you guys were comparing the two heroines a lot.
Probably, yeah.
So I'm like, well, maybe I should go back and give it another try. Because, I love these books. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll go back and give it another try. It was just the first book. It just did not do it for me.
Yeah. Kate Daniels is a more traditional...
The first book has the here kitty kitty scene, and that is just like the scene for the entire series. Like, that's it. That is the scene. And that's why I will forever love the first book. But yes, no, they do get progressively better.
Okay,
well, let's kind of rein back in. We could talk a lot about Kate Daniels, so we'll try to rein it back in and focus back on this book. Sorry, Tamara.
Okay, it happens.
Let's talk about Matt Rogan, because we haven't talked about him enough, I think.
He's pretty amazing. What did you guys think about his backstory, the whole jungle thing?
That was crazy. It was so sad. Like, damn, they just left you out there. Like, oh my God.
And he was only 20 or something?
Yeah, he was young, cocky, shielded from what was really going on. They just, they did him dirty. They did.
And that
but it completely made him who he is today.
Yep,
true.
He would have stayed in that bubble for far too long if that hadn't happened to him.
She was one of the 16. That was his the woman that was killed in the first scene was one of the women that was with him in the jungle,
which is so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The whole murder thing was awful. All of it was terrible. But she'd been with him so long. Yeah.
This writing team does not flinch from the violence, right? And I really, it was awful, but it was also, I just loved how competent Nevada was about explaining exactly what happened. She's like, these are armor-piercing rounds. Your wife was wearing a bulletproof vest. This is what happened. And she's very knowledgeable about police procedure and weaponry and all that stuff. That was goosebumps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And she got that knowledge partially because of her mother, who was also in the military as well. So that kind of all sinks together and makes sense. But one thing about Rogan, which is not his fault, but I did not like how the one doctor woman was trying to tell Nevada when she was she woke up and she was in the little, hospital-ish thing. And she's trying to tell her to just leave him alone. We protect our own. We got his back basically. And Nevada's sitting there okay, we're done with this conversation. And I'm getting up right now and I'm leaving. Try to stop me. I'm like, oh, thank God she didn't listen to that woman.
That was a great scene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was. It's check yourself, woman. I understand you've been through it with him, but check yourself right now. You don't understand. That's great.
Yes.
Damn. But they do care about him. And that kind of we talked about last month, we kind of were saying, well, Rogan was kind of at that point in time, it seemed like he was more concerned about, yes, I look out for these people, but there's something in it for me. But in this book, we really got to know why he looks out for the people and why they have his back so strongly. It was very good to see that,
Agreed.
Yep. Oh, yeah. It really humanized him in a way. In the first book, he was just so big and so mean, and he was killing everybody. And, she was terrified of him. But in this book, she really sees him as a human and as almost a partner.
Definitely.
Not quite equal yet.
She's definitely sees
getting
him
there.
Sees beneath that shell, but that story, and then the glimpses that she had of his nightmares, brought it home.
Mm-hmm.
Which was interesting because at first she didn't know that she was actually like seeping his nightmares from him. But she just thought she was having weird dreams, like, oh, let's eat this rat, all these crazy things. And then later to find out, well, actually.
No, I thought that was, to me, that actually, when they're sort of reading each other's thoughts or he's reading her thought, to me that was a little bit fuzzy. Like, I didn't totally, it just wasn't clear what was going on. Like, when she thinks he can read her mind in the first book, and he picks up that she's thinking of him as a dragon, and I just, if I had one criticism of the way this magical world works, that one was like a little bit off to me. I don't know what you guys thought.
I agree, because in the first book, I could have swore he said, I don't read minds. I can't read minds, but he does.
He's not kind of reading. He's like, she said something about projection.
Well, he said he projects, right? And that's why she, like in that big scene at the end, that's why she was struggling with her physical reality, but also with feeling like she was being chased by the magic sniffers or whatever. So she had like a psychological torture and physical torture going on at the same time. And he explained to her that was going to happen when he went unconscious. He's like, when I am in distress, this is going to happen. And that's where my brain goes, and then I'll project it. And I think he did explain after the nightmare that it was his nightmare, didn't he, when they were in the kitchen?
Not then, but later.
Okay. But then, so I get that he projects, but the fact that he picks up on her thoughts feels kind of inconsistent to me. So that was the one thing that I felt like wasn't very well,
it wasn't explained well,
or rationalized within the rules of the world. So that was the one thing that I felt was kind of, I don't know.
Because if they're in close proximity, is that what it is? Because I know they were in the car and she was thinking about a dragon, and he's like, "Oh, you think I'm a dragon? Ha ha ha!"
Yeah.
What is it? Like, he told her, well, we had a feeling he couldn't read minds, but now he can, or not pick up impressions, rather pick up impressions.
And I think originally he said that he was very good at reading expressions, so he's just trying to kind of downplay it. So maybe he was not being honest with her, so we as readers were not picking up on that. I don't know.
He's the kind of person where if he is just picking up strong impressions, quote unquote, whatever, then you're always like in this zone where if you don't want him to read something off of you, you're constantly thinking about nothing too seriously. Like, you're kind of just floating from topic to topic, or you're not trying to make a big deal of something in your mind because he'll pick it up.
I read some other book where something like that was going on, and the enemy was somebody that could read your mind, and like the main character was like singing 70s jingles in their brain to kind of prevent him from reading it. I can't remember what book that was, but that was kind of funny. Like theme songs to the Brady Bunch.
I read something, not that book, but Kristen White, I think it's Perfect Lies. It's a young adult. It has a main character who's just kind of psychotic because people can read her minds. And so she's thinking all these weird thoughts and never in a cohesive way. And it was written really well.
That sounds like it would be freaky to try to follow.
It was at first, but she head hops into other people, so you're not in that head 24/7.
Okay.
So do you think we'll learn more things about Rogan, like more skills that he has that we hasn't been divulged yet?
I'm sure we'll find more skills and more humanizing facts about him. Something that I noticed in this second reread of this book is that it really focused on children in a way that you don't necessarily pick up at first, but everything was about kids. You know, Cornelius lost his wife and he has his daughter Matilda, and so she's around all the time and you keep seeing her.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rogan was going to go kill that one guy, but his son runs out and he doesn't kill him in front of his son.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, when his cousin appears with the 5 children in the road, so he has to swerve. Like it's all about protecting children.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is definitely kind of a theme.
Definitely.
And they talked about you talked about what else do we find out. I recall in the third book, we see more of Rogan's relationship with his mother, and they alluded to that in this one where his mother was a child, and there was a wedding where someone was poisoned. And so
another kid was poisoned.
Yeah, she made all her own food after that.
Yeah, that's why he's such a good cook or something.
Mm-hmm. Pancakes, bringing it around.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, I like to know what's in my food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I don't blame him.
Absolutely. I mean, in this world where people are trying to take each other out, you know, to be stronger and better and higher at, you know, close to the top, of course, you got assassinations around the, you know, all around the place, like
all over the place. Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of things that I've read, and I don't know if it was really like this, but things that I've read about like Renaissance Italy and Verona, where the Borgias were always out to get everybody. And I don't know. I don't know history to say whether it's really like that or not, but it feels like these royal houses, you know, in historical times where you try to get power by poisoning or assassinating the sitting king so that somebody else could take power. It feels very kind of Tudor-ish or Borgia-ish.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, this wasn't quite a plot hole, but you mentioned that scene where they were in the kitchen, you know, about to have sex, and he pulls off her shirt and she takes off his shirt, and then, you know, they get attacked. She never puts her shirt back on. I went back and reread that 3 times. He pulls his shirt on as he runs out the door, but she just jumps off the table and runs. And I was like,
kind of a Valkyrie. Kind of a Valkyrie effect there.
You do you, girl.
Yeah.
But nobody ever mentions her being shirtless, so I assume.
I didn't even notice it, but she did have a bra on, I think. She did have a bra on.
No? She'd been braless.
So
she'd been sleeping. No. He was playing with her nipples. Then he pulls his shirt on and runs out the door. She jumps off the table and goes and hits the alarm and then goes off to go fight. Grabs her gun, comes out, and I'm like, okay, girl.
See, I just thought she did put her shirt back on, and it just wasn't on the page. I thought she had a shirt on.
I think we can assume that.
I'm sure everybody assumes that, but I went back and reread it, and I was like, no, she doesn't stop. She doesn't stop to pull her shirt on. He did.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Which I was like, that should be flipped. He can run around shirtless.
That's right. And should. He really should.
He really should.
This slow burn in these 2 books is amazing. Boy, if you like a slow burn romance, it doesn't get much slower or burnier than these 2 books, right? They finally make it.
Daniels took more than 2 books. Sorry to bring Kate Daniels up again, but didn't they take like 3 or 4 books to finally get together?
Yeah, but I feel like it was less centered in the story, right? This is definitely.
Well, Briggs did that too with her, you know, with her main. Yeah,
but that was less of a slow burn than a indecisiveness, you know. In Patricia Britt, I mean.
But the good thing is that there's a payoff. Like, there's nothing worse, and we just read, you know, a series somewhat recently where the whole time we're like, oh, it's this spark, but it never delivers, like, ever. So at least here we get a delivery eventually.
Oh yes. Bring me ice water.
Mm-hmm.
This is some good stuff. This is some good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, especially with his abilities, man.
Uh-huh.
That could be crazy. Yeah.
Those kind of creep me out, to be honest. This is not the first book I've read where there's a magical sensory element where, you know, things that are not real feel like they're touching you, and it's like, I don't know that I would actually like that. So, I mean, physically it sounds cool. Mentally, I think it would skeeve me out. But
I want to try it at least once.
I'll try it once.
I'll try it once. We'll see how it goes.
But I'm like, that may seem like the lazy way out. Don't be lazy. Come on, use your actual body.
He wasn't lazy. Like, if I had Matt Rogan there, yes, I would definitely try it, because he was not lazy.
I don't know. I mean, he's just using his brain. He's not actually doing anything physically. I don't know.
He was doing both.
Yeah, he was eventually.
He used his tongue at one point.
He did. Thank God. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Yeah, they're hot. Those scenes are kind of spicy, and I like them. I like them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't overkill, though.
It's definitely a romance.
Yeah, but it wasn't like too much. I feel like it was well balanced, just like with the rest of the book. Like there was a lot of action. There's some suspense in there. There was a lot of things going on, and the romance wasn't just thrown by the wayside. Like,
no, I really appreciated that.
There's just buckets and buckets of sexual tension. So much.
Mm-hmm. It was more than just,
if you're going to push off the actual engagement between the two main, the hero and the heroine, then there needs to be like real, believable, palatable, like you can feel the spark, and the authors were able to pull that off.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I really appreciated the fact that she fell in love with him before they started having sex, and they both admitted, I love you, before they had sex. Like, it was an emotional thing for them. It wasn't just, let's jump into bed, because that's the way book one ended, with him wanting them to just jump into bed, and love wasn't even a factor for him back then. But now it's 2 months down the line, 2 books down the line, they're both like, okay, yeah, this is more than just lust. This is love. And we can admit it out loud to each other. And now we're going to go have this really hot, kinky sex.
See, that's super cute. That's super cute for romance. Like, I'm not hung up on the love thing, but I think it was super cute in this context.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah.
Although I have trouble using the phrase cute with Rogan. He's just, that's like saying a grizzly bear is cute. I don't know. But,
He's adorable.
So,
right.
So what I was thinking about this too, like in paranormal romance, like say Nalini Singh, where each book is a couple and there's a romance in every book. And there's like an urban fantasy series arc going on in the background, right? And then you have urban fantasy where there's a romance arc in the background, but each book has like a fantastical resolution, right? Something political or something to do with the fantasy world has a resolution in each book. But in these, it's really both arcs are pretty front and center. Like there's a resolution to each book, but also there's that lurking Caesar. There's the thing in the background that's not resolved that is pretty forward in the story, and so is the romance and the sexual tension, and it's almost equivalent, I think, in these trilogies. And I think it's because they set out to write a trilogy, right? They didn't set out to write an open-ended series that could go on as long as the fans wanted it to. So I was just thinking that this is one of the few series that I could say I feel like the urban fantasy element and the romance element are kind of equal in importance.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah. And it's done really well.
I was looking on Goodreads just like for my own information, and it seems like the most tagged genre for this is urban fantasy, and the second is romance, which I would agree with.
I would too, because going by the technical terms, the romance is not resolved in a book. So that means individual books, it's hard to tag them as romance. But I feel like the romance is very forward in this trilogy. I wouldn't want to read it without the romance.
It definitely is. Oh yeah, especially with these like cover art too. I mean, it looks like a paranormal romance cover.
Well, and it's become more common. I guess maybe it's more in erotica than regular romance, but to write the romance in a trilogy with cliffhangers in the first two, right? So I think that like the market is starting to accept these 3-part romances.
I still hate the cover art, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it looks so cheeseball. I can't take it. I'm like, why?
That male model is awful. It's just awful.
With his airbrushed abs.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
I know, but cover art is so important. It's so important.
It is. It's so important.
And I feel like they missed the mark on these. I just feel that way.
Yeah, it's bad. It's almost as bad as Cressley Cole's IAD books. And those first few were just awful.
Those were so cheesy and cute, though.
Oh, no, the art was just bad.
I mean, yeah, but it's cheesy and cute.
Okay. I just thought...
Sorry.
But this isn't cheesy nor cute.
Oh, that's why cheesy applies, but I don't know. It's just the wrong Rogan. It's just not Rogan.
Mm-mm.
Well, I mean, I don't even care for the Nevada character on the front. I just don't like it at all.
He has no legs.
Yeah, he doesn't. I didn't even notice that. I'm looking at it right now. I see one of her legs under. You see his leg, and then one of her legs is kind of on top of his.
It's kind of pointing out.
Airbrush error, but I don't know. I just want it. I don't know.
His pants almost
anyway.
make him look naked.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
I said his pants almost make him look naked because they're khakis or something.
I thought he was naked.
They were naked in that cistern.
I mean, they were naked when they got transported down there, so yeah, I'm pretty sure he's wearing like khaki pants.
Also, that was another, if you want a plot hole about clothes, Casey, the guy said they couldn't transport clothes, but at the beginning when the guy that was killed at the party that she was collected by, he was transporting himself, right? He was hopping or whatever, and he was clothed when they found him dead.
I think it's a different kind of transportation because he was like pushing himself or hopping.
Yeah.
Instead of...
Okay.
It was weird, but I think there are minute differences because he was doing himself and she watched all those YouTube videos of people like trying to push stuff and people around and they could kind of do it, but it was only like a couple inches.
Right.
Whereas a prime, he could go through the floor. So it's very minutely different, but yeah, still kind of in that like, you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she does have a leg. I'm looking at it real close now, but
she has one leg right there.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that scene in the cistern? The freezing with the cryo mage or whatever?
I liked it. I thought it was interesting. I liked that he was able to kind of like still use his magic and like protect her at the same time, and they worked together in a seamless way. I'm like, and then when it was all said and done, he's like, "Leave me." She's like, "No." He's like, "I can't go." I'm
not happening, Rogan.
Yeah, just accept it. Yeah, I liked it.
I'm trying to think if I've ever read about like an ice mage before, and I feel like there was someone where they were throwing ice spears at somebody, but I don't know. This is like the first time I've seen it used like to freeze the road and cause an accident, and to just kind of freeze them to death. So, I don't know. It was kind of interesting.
It was interesting.
Yeah, the bad guys in this book were really interesting. There was a lot going on and a lot of people working together. And I know it doesn't all get explained in the next book.
Yep.
But it keeps building. And there's this huge conspiracy. So, the bad guys are interesting.
Which was kind of... which is kind of uncovered a little bit, like they're like, oh, it's a multi-house thing happening. People are working in concert with each other. You know, you have different type of people being able to like, hide people and do other things. And it's like this huge conspiracy. And it's like, they've never worked together like this before, primes, to try to, I guess, make the world think that they needed prime protection, I guess.
Yeah.
Or make Houston think that anyway. And then eventually the world, I guess, is the intent.
Yeah. Start small with just Houston, then grow to Texas and America, and then finally the world.
Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh. I just noticed we're over an hour. Is there anything else we should focus on before we rate the book? Is there anything else you guys want to bring up?
Rogan is super hot. Nevada is a match for him. We love that.
Oh, yeah.
We all agree on that. Yes. Okay. So let's just end that conversation then and let's rate it. How about Nicola? Why don't you start with your rating?
5 stars. 5.5.
Okay.
10 stars. Okay. I love this book.
However many she can fit on the page. Okay.
All the stars.
Got it. All the stars. Okay, Casey.
Same. 5 stars, 10 stars, however many stars I can fit in there. It is a beautifully written book. The pacing is amazing. The tension is awesome. The sexual tension is off the charts. And I just want to say again, I really, really, truly love how she just describes people as, oh, look, here's an African-American man walking over. Oh, here's a woman with Asian heritage. And she just states it so simply. And that's one of the things I love most about this book. So.
Okay. I'm with you guys with the 5-star rating. I gave it 5 before. I give it 5 now. I just really couldn't find anything wrong with it. And I was happy that I didn't. I was so happy.
Right. Sometimes the reread shows you things.
Yeah.
But
third
time through, still loving it.
Yeah. I'm loving them. And I cannot wait to dive into the third book, which is our December read. And that is Wildfire. So it, like you, Nicola, it was hard for me not to just continue on, but we waited, so now we can all read it together as a group. So get excited. We're going to dive right into Wildfire, and we'll be back next month to talk about that. Anything else, ladies?
No, I think we covered it.
All right, guys. Until next time, happy reading.
Happy reading, everybody.
Happy reading. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.